Hey guys, what's up? Evan from Stock Music Musician, and today I've got a review of Fab Filter's new Pro-Q3 EQ. This was a demo copy. This is my first time using a Fab Filter EQ, and I am now sold. This thing is a really incredible, powerful EQ. Not only is it a great learning tool, but it's also just a great EQ in general. Now, I've bought a lot of EQs over the years, invested lots of money in various vintage or, multi-band graphic EQs, whatever. And none of them really made me better mixers. None of them really changed my sound that much. I wish I had not bought most of them. They're not the secret to being a great mixer. And the Fab Filter Pro-Q is also not the secret to being a good mixer. But I do genuinely believe that it will help you and me get better at mixing faster because of a few features that I'll talk about in a minute. But I do want to let you know, A, that I made a demo of just using the Fab Filter Pro-Q3 to sort of mix a song. There'll be a link to that down below. And then also you can download a free 30-day demo of the Fab Filter Pro-Q3 down below. As well, I'll put a link to it, but I believe it's just fabfilter.com/something something something. So that'll be in the link. But why do I think this EQ, unlike any other EQ, can kind of help you get better at EQing, that elusive skill? Well, first of all, it's got a great graphical interface that really gives you good feedback. It's lightweight for the CPU, so it's really, you can layer it on your tracks. And it's got, I think, 3 features that help you grow as a, no, I'm going to say 4 features that help you grow as a mixer. The first, and this is in addition to the visual feedback, is if you're making a change to a band, there's a button that you can press that actually solos the sound of that band. And I found that to be very surprising just to hear, what adding 5 dB at 4 kilohertz on a bass sounds like, for example. Not all of the frequencies sounded the way I thought. And moving forward, this is a way to keep on improving your ear, do ear training, and really hone in on more detailed aspects of the sound. The second really helpful thing is, and I show this a lot in the demo, is you can actually overlay 2 different tracks and their EQ to see where the frequency buildups are occurring between those tracks, where there might be some masking going on, and that then helps you reduce the frequencies, which A, is really helpful for ear training, for deciding, what to do. This is not mixing by numbers by any means, because you have to make judgments about how much to remove. Do you remove it from, do you remove 60 hertz from the bass or for the drums, all of that sort of thing. But also, especially if you don't have a well-treated room, some of these things you really can't hear, even if you have a decent ear, or you need to have a pretty good ear to hear. So this helps you make your mixes better by using visual feedback, but you still have to execute, and you still have to really, use your judgment. The third way it helps you mix is it has this feature where if you kind of hover over the spectrogram probably. It will show you where all the peaks are in the frequency. And so the traditional method, is you you take a narrow band, you pump it up 10, 20 dB, listen to the resonances, and then pull it down. This kind of finds them sooner, so you don't have to waste time. There's not really any skill in sweeping frequencies. So this can save you time, but it also, again, ear training thing. You can, when you hear it, you can isolate it and kind of really listen into it and get a better sense of it. And the fourth way that I think this can help you be a better mixer is that you can do all sorts of curves, filters. You can do the bell curve, a tilt, a high pass filter, a low pass filter, a high shelf, a low shelf, a notch, and every change you make can either be mid only, side only, stereo, just the left, just the right. And this makes it super easy to start learning about and experimenting with mid-side processing in a way that takes away some of the mystery, because often my EQs don't allow me to do that, or they only allow me to do it partially. And this makes me hesitate to do it, or I have to like create some sort of wiring thing to create an EQ where I can even do mid-side. And so by having that all in one menu that's really easy to relate to, it kind of allows me to access this other thing, this other more modern mixing technique with a little less barrier to entry. And it's not like I haven't tried mid-side, and it's not like I haven't ruined mixes with mid-side, and it's not like I'm not going to continue to ruin mixes with too much mid-side processing. But this is certainly a way to make it more accessible and to really engage with it with a little more, I think, a little more judgment, and also being informed by some of the other EQ changes you've already made. Additionally, there's a couple other really killer features on it. One is a dynamic EQ mode, where a dynamic EQ is basically like a multi-band compressor, but it can be even more precise, where you can select a frequency range. For example, let's say you have a drum loop and the snare just has this frequency that rings out too much. Well, you can select that frequency, and every time the snare hits, what it will do is it will just duck that band where the snare exists by a few dB or however much you want, so that the ringing doesn't overwhelm the loop. But then when the snare's not hitting, that frequency is there, so the cymbals and all of that, the toms, the kick, their frequencies are fully intact when the problem doesn't exist. Or inversely, let's say you've got a loop and the kick just doesn't hit hard enough. Well, you could have it where every time the kick hits and it crosses the threshold, it adds a couple dB. And this really makes it so that your EQ is much more surgical and precise, which is just a great way to get more dialed in modern sounds. There's other ways of doing this. There's other plugins for it, but just to have it all in one place where you don't have to reach for the dynamic EQ and the mid-side EQ and the, it's all there. So you can decide, all right, well, what if I made, instead of notching out, 250 hertz, that'll be dynamic. And then the high end's a little conflicting with the percussion part. So I'm going to take out the highs on the side of the drums, but I'll keep the highs on the side of the percussion. And then, I'll make the other EQ moves in the middle. And just having everything on one page really helps, I think, your workflow, but also conceptualize what you're doing as a mixer, especially if you're doing it across multiple sessions. Sometimes, if you haven't looked at a mix for a while, you don't remember like what everything's doing. But if it's all on one page, then it's all there, ready to access. So I've greatly enjoyed using the Pro-Q3. I would highly recommend it. Probably the only EQ I would say, would be unequivocal to recommend. But it does have, not a shortcoming, but unlike the vintage EQs, it doesn't add any tone or color or saturation. So what you might want to consider doing is using the Pro-Q3 for subtractive EQ, right? You take out the nasty frequencies with the Pro-Q3. You do your dynamic moves. You do your mid-side moves. But let's say you want to enhance a certain frequency to a certain extent. Then you could add like, an SSL console emulation and boost, a certain part of the stereo spectrum that you really want to emphasize. And that would get you a little bit of that saturation and that drive added in there, but while still maintaining the precision of the Fab filter and the workflow benefits of it. At least that's how I've been using it, but I'd be really interested if you had other workflow methods for using this, or any questions about the filter. Be sure to leave them down below. And I really wanted to thank you for watching this, and if you've enjoyed this, be sure to like and subscribe for more music reviews and tips and tricks and all sorts of good stuff. All right. Thanks so much, and I hope you have a totally wonderful rockin' day. Bye-bye.